You're watching a video by Tik. Who the hell do you think he is?
Yeah, you knew this one was coming. Violence in video games and video game addiction. Where do I begin? Well, probably the reason why I made this rant video. People have been saying that, oh, Grand Theft Auto 5, violent for our kids, there's been stabbings, there's been thefts for this game, ooh, this is what our kids are doing. And of course, recently in the news, a kid did a quote-unquote video game-style bank robbery. Now, here's the thing, and I'm just going to say it straight, I'm not going to dance about, I'm just going to say it straight. These people do not know what they're on about, okay? I mean, it's like, really? Video games are so bad, but movies, stuff about the news, books, you know, all that stuff that can be even worse, that's perfectly okay for you guys. That's really what you think. You think that movies like Saw, the Saw series, Final Destination, you think things like the Stephen King books, you honestly think that they are perfectly fine and that the entire problem is down to video games. You make it sound like there was no such thing as crime before video games appeared. Here's another reason why you're wrong. And why you're just using it as a scapegoat. Before video games were really a thing, before we had games like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap and such, and Wolfenstein and Doom and such, you guys blamed movies. You were like, oh, these violent movies are corrupting our kids. Don't believe me? Years ago, a 2-year-old kid was brutally beaten and left to die on some railway tracks. The murderers were only 10 years old. Now, there could be various reasons of why, what would drive these kids to do such a thing. But everyone blamed A Clockwork Orange. You know, that one film by, what was it called? Kobik? Everybody blamed that film. But could that really have been the reason? I mean, if that truly is the reason, then actually it isn't their fault. Now, hear me out here, okay? I absolutely hate what those two guys did to that kid. I hope that, I mean, I know that one of them's been released and the other one's in jail. I hope they go back in jail and they are never released, okay? I despise them at a cellular level. But the question is, why did they do it? I know this sounds like it's going off topic, but this is the point I'm getting at. Everybody's saying, oh, these video games are making our kids violent. The same as with those two. It was, oh, movies are making our kids violent. Here's the thing the monumental fucking thing that everyone keeps forgetting. There is a thing called age ratings, okay? Where a cinema or a game shop is, by law, not allowed to sell or show films or games to people who are under the minimum age limit or those that, you know, intend to get the stuff for those under the minimum age limit. Okay? For the most part, if you go in and say, oh, I'm getting Grand Theft Auto 5 for my 12-year-old son, the cashier will refuse to sell you the game. Why? Because you have just admitted that you are going to be you're going to be giving that game to someone who should not be playing that game. And that's the entire problem, okay? If the problem was Clockwork Orange for those two kids, It wasn't entirely their fault. It was the fault of whoever let them watch that film to begin with. Because A Clockwork Orange is an 18 plus film. These guys were 8 years below that age limit. Okay? This is the thing that everyone keeps saying. It's like, oh, our kids are being exposed to these violent games. They are only being exposed to these violent games because you let them. Video games have had age limits for a good, how many is it now? Let's see, 10, about 20 years or so. 20 years we have had these video game ratings. 3, 7, 12, 15, 18, restricted 21. Okay? They are there for a reason. They're not saying, oh, well, your kid should be this age to play it, but you don't have to follow it. No, 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 no. These are here saying, this game is rated this. Do not buy it if your kid is under this age. Okay? I mean, okay, I will say this right now. I am guilty of playing games and watching movies which I shouldn't have watched, judging by age ratings. I watched South Park the movie when I was 12. I played Grand Theft Auto 3 when I was like, the year it came out. I think that was 2001. So I was 10. 10 when I played GTA 3. I think I was 10. Okay, so yeah. Okay, I'm a bit of a hypocrite here because my parents let me watch these films and let me play these games, okay? I will fully admit that I'm a bit of a hypocrite saying that. But here's another thing which I need to say. Now, I am, obviously, a very somewhat sane man. I have never done anything violent without a reason. And even then, I haven't gone into a fight for the last 6 years. And in fact, that fight 6 years ago, I didn't even throw a single punch. I could not bring myself to harm somebody else. So, if these video games are so violent that they're going to corrupt every kid that plays a game, how come I was unaffected? How come I'm a person who, while has a short temper, could not bring themselves to harm another human being? Or to do any of the things that are shown in said violent games? Just remember, I'm a person of normal, ordinary mental strength. Okay? I'm not... I don't have mental breakdowns all the time. At the same time, I don't not have mental breakdowns all the time. So what is it that makes me so special? And, these other kids are going to be exposed to it and they're going to become mass murderers. The answer is, it's not true. You see, kids becoming violent is of two things. One of them is obviously influence, which, yes, is games. But influence alone cannot make somebody violent. It's also down to the person's mental state. You can say anything about it. I mean, I'm not a neurologist. I think that's the guys that look into brains. I don't know, zombies, whatever. Okay. Yes, our brains react to violent games, but that's just it reacting. It's not actively changing our chemistry, our mental chemistry, okay? As I said, I've been exposed to things that I shouldn't have been exposed to from a young age. And yet here I am. I don't like to fight. I try my best not to fight. I find it very difficult for me to harm another human being. And yet I've been playing games which I shouldn't have been playing since I was 10 years old. Probably younger. So why is it that I'm like this and I'm not currently locked up for murder or something like that? It's because that while these games have had an influence on me, it hasn't altered my brain. It hasn't altered my mental state. Now, if you look at the massacres that happened in the States, and you will see that people blame video games. But have you also noticed as well that all of them were in a poor mental state? This is what people seem to think. Video games are still young, and because of that, they need a scapegoat. It's a new form of entertainment. If a new form of entertainment appears, they will blame that new form of entertainment, and video games will get off the hook. Because people don't seem to... They can't bring themselves to say it's because humans aren't perfect, or they jump to conclusions. As I said, the recent massacres, it's been discovered that every single one of them was at the time in a poor mental state. Some of them hadn't even played video games. The Virginia Tech massacre. I mean, I don't like to bring up these massacres, but it is like a solid piece of evidence against violence in video games. He had not played any violent video games for 6 years. The only ones he played were like Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay? I don't know about you, but I don't think anyone would go out and begin murdering people over Sonic the Hedgehog. Meaning that it was a mental problem. That's the thing I'm trying to get here. People keep blaming video games. Well, yeah, sure, it might be a slight reason. I'm not going to go ahead and outright defend it, saying that, oh, video games are not the cause of anything. They are perfectly innocent little things. No. I'm almost certain that they do have a good amount of influence. I mean, hell, I've copied some things subconsciously that other video game characters do. So yes, they do have influence. But to say that they're the sole reason is just not fair. We get the level of violence in video games, in movies, in books, on the news. Okay? I mean, you get these news reports like the recent Kenyan siege. You're telling me that somebody in a poor mental state would not be affected by reading that on the news. But if they played like Grand Theft Auto 5, they would be. Now, I'm saying this, I keep mentioning Grand Theft Auto 5 because recently, obviously, when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, some people were stabbed and had their copies taken away. Now, you would say that's because of video game addiction. Huh? See? Good segue, right? But the thing is, at least with the stabbing thing, it's just probably a huge coincidence. Okay? I mean, is it a coincidence that the Enigma machine was found in a sub, or was it like actually intended? Nah. It was a big fucking coincidence. The same thing is with the Grand Theft Auto 5 stuff. Okay? It's just a coincidence. It is the highest selling game of all time. First day, 1.5 million copies in the UK alone. Okay? England has a population of, I believe, 60 million. So basically, there was a 1 in 60 chance. Like, if everyone was to be robbed, there would be pretty much a 1 in 60 chance of that robber getting Grand Theft Auto 5. You can see my point here. Okay, that stuff's a coincidence. And now, to go back onto the segue thing, video game addiction. People say that you can get addicted to video games, and I honestly somewhat agree. And I'm saying this because I too was a video game addict. However, I once again say that, video games are becoming addicting. No, that is once again down to mental state. Now, some people are saying that video game addiction is harmless. Others saying that it will cause said violence. This isn't so much of a rant, this part. This is more of my opinion. It's not me getting angry at any side. It's just my opinion, because people are basically saying nowadays that kids are getting addicted to video games. Okay, this bit's still a bit of a rant here, but if your kid's getting addicted to a video game, stop them. If this is a parent saying that their kids are getting addicted, stop them. Is it really that difficult? The reason they are probably getting addicted is because they are over excessively playing it. Now, why are they over excessively playing it? Could it be that maybe you suck as a parent, or you can't be asked to look after your own kids, so you have this electronic babysitter do it for you? I mean, okay, once again, hypocrite. My parents did that, but you know what? I ended up becoming a video game addict until I was age 12. And even now, my parents still are just like, yeah, sure, go ahead, play a game, but I've learned to deal with it. Now, I over-excessively play games, but not to the point of addiction. I'm in university, for fuck's sake. If I was addicted, I wouldn't be there. So, yeah, that's a little bit of the rant thing on video game addiction. You worried your kids getting addicted to a video game? Well, why don't you go and stop them? What is stopping you from stopping that? You are their parents. Your word is law when they're younger, okay? Seriously, if you are just like, oh, but I don't want to because he's having fun, so what? You're worried that he's going to be a video game addict. You can't make everyone happy all the time. This is why wars happen, because people get upset and start shit. The same thing is here. Yeah, sure, your kid will hate you, but at least you don't have to worry about him being an addict anymore, and he's a kid. It'll blow over. Like, just give him an hour or so, or a day, and he'll go back to just loving you right back. I mean, really? Just really? You honestly think, okay. You think that being, okay. Once again, I'm being a huge hypocrite. I'm a video game addict. I don't intend to have my kids play video games a whole lot, because I know what it's done to me on a personal level, and I know what happens with people who play video games too much. They get out of touch with the outside world. A friend of mine went to a Renaissance fair a couple of days ago, at the time of this upload, and there was a kid there who clearly over-excessively played games. The reason is because they were in a shop which sold real, battle-ready swords. These are swords that can kill a man. And what you did normally is you would just pick up the swords, examine them, and then put them down. One kid who clearly over-excessively played video games, and I'm saying that because according to my friend he was a proper nerd, I don't know. He lives in Michigan, I live in Manchester, England, okay? I can only go by his word. But this kid was picking up the swords and started imitating sword moves, which you're not allowed to do. The shop was apparently pretty damn crowded. That's a sign of video game addiction, because, as I said, this guy is now out of touch with the world. He thinks he's in a video game and he can do this kind of stuff. He does not know how the world outside works. And for those of you that are saying, oh, we're worried about our kids becoming addicted, you're their parents. You have more power over them than anybody else, except law, obviously. It's not child abuse if you take away their Xbox and don't let them play, okay? I should know. My parents always took my consoles away because I was a video game addict. I just find it not only funny, but sad that these people are saying all this stuff about video games when they, in themselves, have the power to stop it. And as I said, I'm mainly talking about video game addiction here, okay? Your kid's not going to go on a murder spree if you take away his console, or make sure they can't go on the computer, okay? Surely you should know this, okay? You really, really should know this. I mean, you're a parent, okay? You are an adult. I mean, I know this, and I'm not entirely in tune with the outside world because, as I said, most of my life, I was an addict, okay? And yet, I'm apparently more in tune than these parents who grew up in the 70s or 80s. Okay? Are you really that dense to think that... I mean, I... How can you think... How can you respond to that? The fact that me, a 21, nearly 22-year-old man, who has spent half of his life as a video game addict, who over-excessively plays games, for the entire time I was on my summer break, I just sat at home and played video games. How come I know that if a child is, if you're worried about a child becoming an addict, you stop them playing the game? How come I know that? And yet this one parent's like, oh no, these are making our kids addicts and there's nothing we can do except banning video games. No. It's not about banning the games. It's about taking some goddamn responsibility for your actions. You worried your kids are becoming violent. Oh, well, I guess that means that you shouldn't buy your 12-year-old kid the next Call of Duty then, am I right? You know, that game you shouldn't have been buying them to begin with. Get Arkham Asylum or something like that. I mean, sure, that's pretty violent, but it's not that violent. Oh, I'm worried about my kids becoming a video game addict. Oh no, apparently you've got a phobia of unplugging consoles or turning off PCs. I mean, I know that people are gonna feel insulted by this, but I am equally insulted by your naivete? I think that's the word for it. You're too naive, okay? You think the problem resolves in video games, but it doesn't. It actually resolves in you. And if you think, oh no, it's not my fault, you are clearly in denial. As I said, I won't say that video games are perfect, because in my eyes, nothing can be perfect. I'm not saying that they are completely innocent. They are guilty of things, okay? I mean, there is such a thing as over-excessive violence. This is why I hate the soft games. This is why I hated the Manhunt games, okay? This is why I don't watch, like, the really violent anime like Hellsing. It's because it's over... You don't need it. But if you say that the thing, like, it's the entire reason and that you are not to blame, you are the one that's in the wrong here, okay? There is absolutely no way in hell that you can convince me or anybody else who plays games sensibly, I may add. There's no way you can convince us that you are in the right when you have the power to prevent your kid from playing these violent games or becoming video game addicts, and you just sit around and do nothing. I will catch you guys next time.